Hi guys, welcome back to my shop. Today I want to share with you 5 tools that have become indispensable to me over the years. Now most likely you've never heard of them, or perhaps you might have passed them over. Now these tools in my list are not beginner tools. There are dozens of videos on YouTube for that kind of stuff. This list is for the more advanced woodworker and DIYer, who's mostly interested in improving their productivity and making their job easier and improving the quality of their work. So let's jump into the list of my favorite tools. Every seasoned woodworker and finished carpenter have built more than their share of projects that employ the use of dado and rabbet joints. Cabinets, drawer boxes, bookcases, and furniture are frequently used of this simple method to join 2 pieces together with a lot of strength. Now, the trick to getting a good dado is having the groove exactly the right width, so that when you bring the 2 pieces together, they fit together snugly. And getting a snug fit is tricky, and that's because plywood and most 1x material is undersized. 3/4 material is often as much as 1/16 of an inch small. And the same is true for 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch material. If you've ever tried using a stacked dados blade set, like this set here, they give you a number of shims to add to the chippers to change the size of the groove to fit the material. Now, there's nothing wrong with this kind of set, and you can get great results, but boy is it a pain. You usually have to make a bunch of test cuts and dismantle the stack and try different shims to get the right fit. And a router is not much better. Making an undersized groove means you have to make 2 passes with the bit. And if the final pass of the router is just the smallest amount off, you'll get a sloppy dado. Enter my favorite solution to the problem. This is the Freud Dial-a-width Super Dado set for your table saw. Now, the concept of this set is really the same as any other stacked dado set. You have a blade with a series of chippers in between. But this set, there are absolutely no shims to deal with. Let me show you how it works. You start by consulting this chart, which tells you which chippers to start with. Rather than using shims to make adjustments, there's a wheel on the outside of the blade that moves in or out to fine-tune your groove width. The wheel has a series of detents that clicks as you rotate the wheel. Each detent moves the blade 4/1000ths of an inch. This allows you to create an absolute perfect width dado, and so much faster. As much as I like the convenience of this set, it also produces a very high quality cut. If you've used Freud table saw blades in the past, you know what I mean when I say quality cut. The bottoms of the dado groove are flat and without ridges, and the sides are square and consistent width. About the only thing I can complain about this set is the packaging. The kit comes in this cardboard box which doesn't last. Now I've had my set for over 15 years, long after the box gave up the ghost. I built this wooden storage box which works great and will last another 15 years. And that's because I expect this dado set to last that long as well. Now, the price for this set was $240, which is more than most stacked dado sets. And I think I paid like $180, like I said, 15 years ago. So if you do the math, the price is less than a sandwich per year. And I call that a great value. So this next one is not a tool by itself, but a mod to one of my favorite tools to make it even better. This is an accessory kit for the DeWalt cordless vacuum. I've had this DeWalt vac for more than a decade, and one of the best features about it is how small and convenient it is. The small size allows you to haul it up a ladder, take it inside of a cabinet, and since it's battery powered, you can take it most anywhere. But unlike most cordless vacuums, it also has a cord, so you can alternatively plug it in. And not many vacs give you the convenience of both cord and cordless. As much as I like this vac, it does have some shortcomings. It's not the most powerful vacuum. And I hate any shop vacuum that doesn't have bags. The last thing I'm interested in doing is servicing a dirty filter each time I empty the dust bin. I ran across this accessory kit that allows you to use bags instead of the filter. It's a 3D printed adapter for adding the bag. It only took a few minutes to install and requires no alterations to your vacuum. It made my favorite portable vacuum even better. I was so tickled by how well the bags worked, I reached out to the store owner to thank him. And he turned me on to another one of his inventions for this DeWalt vacuum. And it's a dust brush. And this is a welcome missing accessory from this vacuum. But included with the dust brush is this little holder that plugs into the exhaust port. But the really cool thing about this little holder is that it redirects the exhaust wind up and away from the vacuum. Now, without it, it just blows out the side and usually directly into what you're trying to vacuum up, which is a real pain. So this is a welcome accessory. The bag adapter is $37, which includes your first dust bag. And it comes with a no questions asked warranty. If it breaks, he'll make it right. I'll put a link to his Etsy store down, as well as all the other tools in this list, in the description down below. My number 3 tool is an absolute must if you frequently work alone. This is the T-Jak lift. Now, it's marketed as a cabinet lift, but I've found it useful for so much more. It's another set of hands when you're working alone. And it handles lifting loads up to 400 pounds. It allows you to put most anything above your head. It's quick to deploy and super easy to use. Ever tried installing drywall in the ceiling? By yourself? Perfect for soloing the install of an electrical fixture. How about a temporary tile support while the thin set dries? HVAC soffit? Siding? Here's another example just this last week that we can all relate to. I've got this plywood cover that buttons up my house's wiring chase. The cover is like 8 feet long and it's totally awkward to handle. I'm able to place the T-Jak at the right height and use the shelf it creates for holding up one end while I screw it into place. Muy bueno. They also make a mini T-Jak called the Mini Brute that I've found is super helpful when setting upper kitchen cabinets, or positioning a countertop, or really lifting anything that's closer to the floor. The Mini Brute is just over $100, and for the full-size T-Jak, it adds another $40. You know, I first tried the T-Jak system nearly 20 years ago, and after using it again and again, I added the Mini Brute and a number of accessories. And I'll say, it really expands what you can do by yourself, on the job or accomplishing home projects. The next tool on my list isn't going to cost you anything. You can build it yourself with a little effort. Once again, after using it for a while, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. I call this my Keychain of shims. It's just a series of scrap hardwood pieces, dimensioned to exact thickness. They are super useful for all sorts of measuring tasks, like trying to determine the thickness difference between 2 brands of plywood, or to figure out how out of level a chair or table leg is, or raising a router bit to exactly 9/32. I also like using a 1-inch gauge block to be sure the gap for a drawer slide is exactly the width it should be, and parallel to the cabinet wall all the way through the length of the slide. You can easily make these thickness blocks with a great deal of accuracy on your table saw using a thin rip gauge. You can purchase a thin rip jig from most woodworking outlets, or you can build your own like I did. I built this thin rip jig from Woodsmith plans some 20 years ago. I went back looking for those plans so I could pass them on to you. And I found out they have an even better version that you can make, and the plans are free. Once again, I'll put a link in the description below. After setting up the jig and ripping a piece of scrap, I measure it with calipers. Mark it with the decimal equivalent and the fractional value. Drill a hole in it and add it to the keychain. The other great thing about making your own keychain of shims is they're totally disposable, meaning I often sacrifice them for projects when needed. I just add a little bit of glue, slide them in, and now the tabletop is level. No big deal to make some more. The last tool on today's list is the evolution of the flashlight. This is the Ridgid cordless stick light. And for those of you that follow my channel, you've seen me mention it in the past. This light has like 18 LEDs on the face, and it can be articulated in most any direction. And it's super bright compared to those flashlights we grew up with. Remember these? The old D cells? This thing outputs 800 lumens, which can light up a whole room. It's really more of a torch than a flashlight. And it can be directed right where you want it and provide excellent illumination of your work. I use it in so many ways, replacing a faucet under the sink, inside of a cabinet, shining into a wall cavity. You'll realize this thing is really worth its weight in gold when it helps you find that killer splinter in your finger. One of the other great uses that I've found with this light is when you're doing finishing work. You can cast the light across your project and see if the finish is consistent. I also put it to use during the sanding phase of my project. Shining the angle light across your work will show you any swirl marks that need to be fixed. Skip this step and the sanding marks will pop when you put on the stain and ruin your project. This Ridgid torch sells for $50, but I'm really not married to the Ridgid. Almost all of the big manufacturers, DeWalt, Makina, Milwaukee, make some sort of variation of the same thing. I'm sure they have their merits too. As you can see here, I'm using a Makita battery to power this Ridgid light. For those of you that haven't found out about battery adapters, I have another video that goes over that, and I'll put a link below so you can kiss the whole proprietary battery system away. You know, with this 5 amp hour battery, this light will run nearly all day. I hope that you found a tool or two from my list that's worthy of your list. And by the way, I should say this video is not sponsored by anyone, and these are solely my own opinions. I just wanted to share a few of my favorites that never seem to get mentioned anywhere else. And please, 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 leave me a comment below about your favorite tool that we haven't heard of. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the thumbs up button so it will be presented to other people's feeds too. I'd also like to join me on my next adventure by subscribing to this channel. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you again next time.